Herzlich willkommen zum heutigen Kino gegen Austerität mit dem Film We Are Many. Eine beeindruckende und auch ermutigende Dokumentation über die massiven und ausgreifenden Antikriegsproteste gegen den Irakkrieg, der exakt vor einem Jahr von den USA und der UK völkerrechtswidrig als Angriffskrieg gegen den Irak gestartet wurde. Wir machen das Kino gegen Austerität in der Kampagne International solidarisch Schluss mit Austerität nun schon fast gut 5 Jahre, um uns mit Kultur und Film zu bilden, zu diskutieren, wie wir die Welt besser machen können, den gesellschaftlichen Reichtum umverteilen können und auch Frieden schaffen können. Ihr findet an unserem Infotisch das Programm für die jetzt startende neue Spielzeit bis in den Frühsommer mit Filmen, die sich insbesondere mit der Frage beschäftigen, wie eine zivile Entwicklung von uns rund um den Globus durchgesetzt werden kann. Wir werden den Film in Originalsprache, also in Englisch, schauen mit deutschem Untertitel und für den weiteren Abend gleich in Englisch wechseln. Bei der Diskussion könnt ihr aber eure Beiträge und Fragen auch auf Deutsch stellen und Victoria wird dann helfen, ins Englische zu übersetzen. Vorab noch kurz organisatorische Hinweise. Hier vorne findet ihr Getränke und Snacks gegen Spende. Wir machen eine inhaltliche Begrüßung, gucken gemeinsam den Film und nach einer kurzen Pause kommen wir dann zum Filmgespräch zusammen. Wem zu kalt wird oder zu hart sitzend, kann sich hier vorne an Wolldecken bedienen. So, wir wechseln ins Englische. Genau. So we are switched to English because tonight we are delighted to welcome the director of the film, Amir Amirani. Welcome to Hamburg. Amir Amirani is an Iranian-British director who produced a lot of documentaries for BBC and TV shows and radio shows. He also co-produced the film Coup 53 about the Anglo-American coup d'etat in Iran, which we saw a few weeks ago. And your brother Taghi brought this film to our attention. And it's the first show of the film in Germany with a film discussion.
Yeah, this is the premiere.
So, yeah, the film We Are Many documents the history of the anti-war protest exactly 20 years ago, their background and their historical profound aftermath. And I think it's very important for today to discuss on which shoulders we stand for the peace movement and what history we have. Because history proves that the peace workers of that time and today are right. There's no alternative to peace. And yeah, that's our duty and our challenge to make the peace go around the world. And we spoke before that the protest against the Iraq war was my first manifestation I took part in, and it was a lot of people who for the first time went on the streets, and I think they didn't stop with their engagement for a better world. So I think the film is an important contribution to historical awareness, to know where we come from and to give us a deeper insight into the meaning and the effect of engagement for peace, which is, I think, very important today against the propaganda for the war, and then we can stop together the war in Ukraine and all over the world. So, yeah, I think it's our common challenge, and we want to discuss with the film how do we build a peace movement around the world. And we will thank you to Amir, and I will hand over the microphone for you for a short introduction.
Thank you very much. Guten Abend. That's where my German ends. So thank you for coming. Thank you for the comrades to put this film on. And I'm sorry that I'm speaking to you in English, but I'm grateful that you're all much better educated than us in the UK. Can I just ask how many people here were on the demonstration in 2003? Ah, cool. Okay, that's a good test. My own story of making this film actually began in Berlin. I was at the Berlin Film Festival. I had to decide, I knew that the protest was going to happen, and I had to decide where I would be, to stay in Berlin or go back to London. I decided to stay in Berlin to experience it here. It was very big, the biggest thing that I'd experienced. But when I came back to London, I sensed something quite special. The people there, my friends, who I did not think of as political, were extremely excited. They told me I had missed a very important day. And then I felt very sad that I had missed this day in London. And this was a clue to me that something had changed, because it was so big, about 2 million people, which was far and away the biggest protest in the history of the UK. And it took me a while, it took me another couple of years before I started to really think what this meant, and to try to think about making a film about it, because I was curious, how did the biggest protest, not only in the history of the United Kingdom, but how did the biggest protest in the history of the world happen? Whose idea was it? Who organized it? And so on. So that was, and obviously I know that the protest had not succeeded, but nevertheless, I still thought that it was a story worth telling, and also documenting for history, so that, in future people could look back and know the scale of the protest. Although interestingly, because not many people have seen this film, whenever I've shown it, people are always amazed at the scale of it. They didn't realize that it happened in 800 cities, 72 countries on every continent. When I started to make the film, I decided to film in 7 countries. I did 110 interviews, and about 54 of them are in the film. There are also some scenes in Germany. It took me 9 years to make it. I did not have any funding from any broadcaster, not the BBC, not Channel 4, not Sundance. There is not one penny of official money. I had to raise the money privately. And in the end, it was in cinemas, in about 150 cinemas in the UK. But no broadcaster in the United Kingdom showed the film. The following year, Universal Pictures acquired the worldwide digital rights of the film, but even they could not sell the film to broadcasters in the UK or in America. In terms of what's happened in these 20 years after the war, that movement, in a way, made the anti-war position more acceptable, more mainstream in the UK. It's still not a powerful one, but the fact that 2 million people, most of them first-timers, came to protest in 2003 was very significant. So now in the UK, although the anti-war movement is still not big, at least when they protest and they bring some people out, it's not ridiculed in the way that it used to be. What else can I tell you? Again, we can talk about this afterwards, about who were the key movements before 2003. They were, the CND were really the main protest movement, and in 2003 they came together with the Muslim Association and the new Stop the War coalition. Shall I leave it at that? I prefer mostly afterwards to hear your thoughts about, maybe we can compare the experience here in Germany. Of course, our experiences since the Second World War have been different. Tony Blair, who, by the way, single-handedly took Britain into 5 wars in his 10 years in office. He's still in the public life. All his people are still in public life. His press associate is on the news. He's got his own podcast and so on. So, it's a mixed legacy. So I would be very interested in hearing your views about, of course, what you see, but also comparing the German experience with the British experience. And I've shown the film in America, and we can talk about what's happened to the peace movement in America and so on. So I guess one final thing I'll say. When I started to make the film, as I said, I thought I was making a film about something that didn't succeed. It took me 9 years to make the film, and I made some discoveries that I did not expect. I thought I was just going to tell the story of a heroic failure, but I was surprised by what I found. And I was speaking to Victoria earlier this evening, and she said that her own reaction to the film was quite interesting. And I found also, when I showed it in the UK, people came up to me afterwards and said that they were not aware of the things that the film had shown, and that they were now excited about what the movement could achieve. I won't say more than that, but I look forward to discussing it with you afterwards, and thank you very much for coming out tonight.